sensational! Higa was onside, Higa with the touch, and it goes in. Has he got the touch? There's your answer! On frame and in! Nosu with a throw, wonderful goal!
New faces on the field and 5 new faces in the MLS coaching ranks for 2018. Michael Starr in San Jose, Anthony Hudson in Colorado, Brad Friedel. With the Revs, Giovanni Savarese swaps NYC for the Rose City, and Remy Gard brings a European pedigree to the Montreal Impact. Welcome to the 2018 MLS Season Preview Show. We are rolling along, all 23 teams, every storyline in Major League Soccer ahead of opening day on March 3rd. We will talk about it right here, but a reminder for you. Of course, MLS Fantasy is open and ready for you to build your team. You are a manager too. We've got 2 seasons this year to make it easy for you. And those rosters, they do not lock until the first whistle of every single game. And you can follow all the goals, all the highlights, all the analysis, all the news on MLS app. Go download that one from iTunes Store and Apple Play. And of course, stick with us right here for the rest of the week. 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be here this weekend on MLS Matchday Central to get things rolling. And we're wearing suits, ties, jackets, collared shirts right now. On Friday, we're going to be just like you. Dress for MLS. Put on your favorite team's apparel. I've got a pretty sweet jersey in store for you guys. And, of course, these folks you know well. Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst. He's got about, 8,000 words on every single team at MLSsoccer.com
7,500.
Yeah.
I cut it down a bit.
Yeah, go read that. Bobby Warshaw, former MLS defender, now MLS contributor. And, of course, Kalen Carr. Scored goals in MLS Cup. Now he's doing his thing with us and for the movement. Let's get right into it, guys. The news of the day, and we'll start with CONCACAF Champions League. 0-0 last night at BMO Field between Toronto FC and the Colorado Rapids. That's okay for Toronto FC. They move on, but they've got Tigres coming in the next round in the quarterfinals, Bobby. You were part of the first team that won in Mexico. How do they do this?
We know Tigres is good. Doyle's called them the best team in CONCACAF over the last few years. But the biggest thing when you go down there, guys, believe. You know how good Tigres is, but just go like it's another game. Go expecting to get a result, because without that belief, you won't get it done.
I believe that if they go down there and give up the type of chances to Gignac that they gave up to Badji, then they are going to lose big. Toronto's got to play a lot better than they did against the Rapids.
They should believe, though, right? This is the best chance MLS has had, although the matchup is a little bit tough in the quarters.
Yeah, when you look at some of the other teams that have made it far in the tournament, it's been Salt Lake or Montreal, which were probably surprises at the time as far as club profiles. This team is stocked with power and depth as well. And I think in this group, you'd like to face some of the tougher teams early. Just get them out the way. Why not? You want to face yourself and test yourself at the best. This is their opportunity right in front of them.
It's a quarterfinal. It feels like a final. Some other news to get to here. There were some signings yesterday. That TAM money is still going around. Bork Dokal, the number 10 for the Union, they sealed that deal. A big move for Duke Nation out there. Sounders signed center back Kim Ki-hee via TAM, and then LAFC got their defensive midfielder and Eduard Atuesta via TAM as well. Young Colombian captained them at the U20 South American Championships. Unfortunately, for the second straight day, we've got to talk about injuries. Yesterday, it was Jordan Morris and Kellen Acosta. Today, it is Ezequiel Barco. 15 million spent on the Argentine this transfer window, Doyle. Now out 4 to 6 weeks. I know, with that right quad injury. This is not what we want to hear.
No, it's not what you want to hear. Muscle injuries can be tricky, but it doesn't seem like one that's going to be overly complicated. And he's not the only player on Atlanta United. They have last year's Rookie of the Year, and Julian Gressel, who I think will probably slot in and start at left wing in place of Barco. And there's also the other teenager, Andrew Carlton, who was, frankly, he was better than Barco in preseason. So Tata Martino has plenty of options here. He's just got to pick the right one.
Last year, the criticism of Tata was that he didn't go to his bench. He didn't use the rotation, which caused injuries. Well, here's an opportunity here to bleed in a guy like an Andrew Carlton or a Gressel, good options off the bench, give them minutes right away. Not what you want, but I think Tata learned his lesson from last year and trusts some of these young players.
Remember, Miguel Almiron, Joseph Martinez, Hector Villalba, they've got attacking talent. This should not fail Atlanta United. Let us know what you think in the comments. Right now, remember, we are there with you. So if you have questions, comments, hot takes, what have you, get at us right now. Make sure you like the Facebook page or follow us on YouTube. Let's get right into it with the Portland Timbers, guys. Giovanni Savarese is the latest new face in MLS coming over from the New York Cosmos. You can see there on their schedule, Matt. It's going to start on the road before they get into a revamped stadium there in the Rose City. Who is Giovanni Savarese? What will he bring to this team?
Who is MetroStar's legend, Giovanni Savarese? He was one of the originals in this league. He scored a bunch of goals and was a gamer both for his club and for Venezuela, an international who's played in World Cup qualifiers. As a coach, he is less well-traveled. He pretty much has only coached in NASL with the New York Cosmos. It's a unique situation because he had guys like Raul and Marcos Senna, guys who have won the World Cup, guys who have won the Champions League. So he's managed big egos. He speaks a million different languages. He's also done a good job bringing kids into that lineup as well. To me, I think he's a great hire.
The word that stands out to me is charisma.
Yeah.
He's a charismatic guy. He's instantly a guy you want to tune in for his post-game press conferences. And I think, as you mentioned, those different languages and understanding the different cultures in that locker room, a very Latin group, he'll be able to connect in a way that is very important for this team, especially for a new manager. A different type of manager, maybe a little bit off the beaten path as far as a choice. Could have gone for maybe a bigger name like Tata Martino or Patrick Vieira. But I think you're starting to see coaches developing in the lower leagues in the U.S. coming to MLS. Wilmer Cabrera had some success against these Timbers in the playoffs last year. I think he follows that same path.
Yeah, for him it was about community with the Cosmos. He will look to build that in Portland as well. He's also building onto the roster they already had, which, well, they finished first in the Western Conference. So it was already pretty good. Bobby, take us through here what they're getting, but also what they're losing. Darlington Nagbe out.
Yeah, it's sad to see Nagbe leave the Timbers, but for me, Andrew, we always knew the Timbers had talent. It was about stability. Whether injuries or lack of focus, it felt like they were always shuffling guys through, and you never knew what you were going to get from the Timbers. But their off-season signings, Armenteros up top, and Cascante and back. Adi, very good player, but injuries, focus, Ridgewell injuries. It felt like you were always shuffling players in and out. So now they've got first-team caliber guys where if something goes wrong with the other two, they can step right in and the Timbers will get the stability they crave.
They've made a splash in the offseason. This is no longer Caleb Porter's team. Kalen Doyle at the board. Walk me through the 11.
Thanks, Andrew. So a new coach, of course, Matt. But it looks like a new team in some ways, just because everyone's back on the field. It should have some good health. And no Nagbe. What stands out to this group for you?
It's still the attack. And it's still the guy in the middle running it. Diego Valeri was last year's MVP, and he has more weapons that I think that he can use this year, including Samuel Armenteros, who was maybe their best player in preseason. We don't even have him in the starting 11. So they're deeper. I think they're better in the attack. The defense still worries me a little bit. Liam Ridgewell was good when healthy last year, but he's 34. You never know if he's going to be healthy. He's slow. Mabiala is a little older. He's slow as well. Powell didn't have a great year last year. Already down a man at left back. I like Marco Farfan, though. So there are questions for sure.
Well, one player we know will need to step up in Nagbe's absence is Blanco, Sebastian Blanco here. How important is it to build a relationship between him and Valeri?
Well, I think we saw them at their best doing stuff like that, playing, like combining in tight spaces with each other and using Valeri as the linchpin. And you see it right here. He makes this pass, and then he knows the run. He's just going to follow the ball because he knows Valeri is going to create that space.
Yeah, give it and go. Valeri, always a good reference point here. We'll need to see where Sebastian Blanco lines up in the lineup. Always need to see some surprises with new coaches. Weeby, back to you.
Thank you, guys. Of course, Diego Valeri. No surprises from him. It's just goals and assists all day long, Bobby. This is the guy 30-plus scored and created last year. Can he match what he did in 2017?
Can he match? It feels like an unfair question because Valeri is so good. But can we really expect any midfielder to put up over 20 goals? So he could have a great season, but will he match what he did in 17? Feels like a bit of a stretch.
Maybe it'd be better if he didn't. Maybe that would mean the Timbers overall are a better team. Let's get to predictions right now for this squad. Doyle, I'll start with you. Best, worst case scenario.
Best case is they're top of the West again by more because they can score their way out of jams and they keep those two center backs healthy and maybe Cascante steps up as well. Worst case is injuries just ravage them again. Diego Chara doesn't end up being what Diego Chara was and they fall down towards the playoff line. But I think even in a worst case scenario, this team is a playoff
Bobby,
team.
What are you buying there? Best or worst? What will be closer to?
I wouldn't blink an eye either way. I'm going to say closer to worse because I said in the show yesterday, I'm a big fan of stability. I'm a big fan of knowing what you're going to get. And there's too many moving pieces, too many intangibles we can't predict.
Starting with Valeri is a good place. I think it's better for him not to be the MVP, though. I mean, having to carry 9 games in a row with goals to lead them up to the top of the Western Conference, it's not what you want. You've seen in past years, Sasha Kljestan not winning the MVP because he splits with Bradley Wright-Phillips, and then last year, Sebastian Giovinco and Josie split it. You'd rather have team success, so I think they need him not to be the MVP this year and have others like Adi and Blanco and Polo step up into their spot.
Just crank it down to a best 11 performance.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, and look, they'd like to have a little better performance in the playoffs as well. Healthy now. We'll see how it goes for the Portland Timbers. They were first in the West. 6th in the West by the skin of their teeth were the San Jose Earthquakes, who got in on the final day, decision day, and they have a new coach as well. Michael Stara comes over from Sweden. Jesse Fiorinelli has put his stamp on this squad. Now he's got his head coach in place. Bobby, give us the scouting report.
Yeah, I've talked to people in Sweden, guys, about Stara, and they say nothing but positive things. So he's a possession-based coach, but more importantly, he just cares about attractive soccer. He cares about giving the fans something they want to watch. So he'll try and win, but along with the winning, he just wants to put out a product that the city can be proud of.
Isn't everybody in Sweden just happy about everything? Freddie Ljungberg seemed like the happiest.
It is a happy place. Are the Quakes fans going to be happy with what Stara brings to the squad?
I think so, because Bobby makes the point that he's a coach who likes to encourage attacking soccer, but from what I've seen of them in the preseason, they're really organized. They're really organized. They're not going to get pulled apart like they tended to, I think, in the second half of last year. And if you have those two things, organized and good at attack,
and you can attack.
You might be good at soccer, yeah.
Talent's important, too, and they've made some big moves here in the offseason. Magnus Eriksson, probably the biggest, Kalen. He comes in, replaces Marco Arena. You also have some big losses, but this team feels like they improved.
Yeah, they've gotten better. Those names in need to prove themselves, but I'm looking at the out right there. Marco Arena going down to LAFC. You wouldn't want to see him in conference. And then David Bingham also going south to Los Angeles Galaxy to a rival. So those are 2 games that I have circled on my schedule. You don't want to see those guys in an ideal situation go within conference to rivals.
All right, Michael Stara has to build his first 11 this weekend. Doyle, Bobby, what do you make of it?
Well, we're already arguing about these guys. Bobby wants to flip Eriksson and Kazashvili, maybe drop Wando a little bit deeper, maybe flip Youngworth and Godoy as well, which gives you an idea of the amount of flexibility that Michael Stara has.
That's the best part about this team right now, Doyle, is it's just going to be something different, right? It seems most likely we're going to see a boxing midfielder. Youngworth and Godoy behind Eriksson and Vako. Both Eriksson and Vako like to be inside. They like to play just off the forwards, cutting in, and they're both, it sounds simple, but they're both just excellent shooters around the 18, so the more central they are, the better it's going to be.
A lot of threats is going to put the onus on Lima and Kuiberg to get forward, which we've seen a lot of in the preseason. Also, keep an eye, Jackson Ewell, Tommy Thompson, my guys, Andrew, get on the hype train. We know you're already.
Oh, yeah. Choo-choo. I am all about that hype train, no doubt about it. And look, the Wando hype train's been going on for like a decade now. I will never pick against this man, and he needs just 12 goals this year to take over the all-time record from Landon Donovan. Kalen, does he do it?
Yeah, no hype here. This guy gets it done, has done it consistently. I think over 10 goals the last 7-8 seasons. I've lost track. If you're a new manager, and that's what this season preview is all about, you want something with some reliability, and this guy's been that picture of that. Not a guy that depends on speed or strength or anything but just getting service in the box. This year he has more weapons. He gets it done. I think he gets the record.
I'm with you. I'll never pick against Wando again. But now I'm going to ask you guys to tell me whether this team makes the playoffs. When I do the math in the Western Conference, it's pretty fuzzy. A lot of teams have improved. Doyle, in or out?
To me, it's pretty clear this is a playoff team. All the stuff we talked about, plus Harold Cummings back and healthy in the back line, I like the Quakes.
All right, in?
Contending, but just out.
Ooh, we've got split now. Now you got to make up the difference, Kalen. What are you taking?
Fiorinelli giving them a new picture, a revamp of this team. I think they get in the playoffs.
All right, San Jose, 2 out of 3 in the playoffs according to our panel. Let's keep it rolling to the Colorado Rapids. In action last night in CONCACAF Champions League. 0-0, good performance against Toronto FC on the road. Will not move on, however, and Anthony Hudson says he's focused on this weekend, on MLS play. Doyle, they're going in a new direction here. Hudson's got to bring what he learned in New Zealand and other posts to the Rapids and do it on the club side.
Well, I'll tell you this, you're not going to win this weekend because they don't play till next weekend. But,
good point.
I think I like what I saw from them in CCL play because they were super organized, and what they did was that. They sent Dominique Badji out on the run. They used his pace, and they actually really troubled TFC at times. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it was I thought it was pretty effective.
It was effective, and the thing they're doing right now is it's just different than what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is going to South America. They're going for younger players, and here the Rapids saying, we're going to England, we're going for older guys, and the important thing to remember in building a team, it's that you're not trying to pick the best philosophy, you're just trying to pick a philosophy and execute it well, and it seems, based off their 2 games against Toronto in Champions League, it seems like they're off to a good start.
At least it's an ethos, dude.
It's an
All
ethos.
right, well, let's take a look at some of those moves this offseason from the Colorado Rapids. Doyle, take us through it.
I mean, you can see the big guys coming in are Tommy Smith, Danny Wilson, Jack Price, and Joe Mason as well, all 3 from the championship or Scotland. Edgar Castillo, of course, the U.S. national team fans know a little bit about him. They all fit. You know, like maybe they're not top-end talents in this league, but they all have specific roles. They clearly were targeted by this front office. It's an ethos. It's what you want.
And what do they fit into? Well, that would be the 3-5-2. The Rapids put out a letter to their fans telling them to expect attractive soccer. Walk me through this formation, Bobby and Kalen.
Yeah, Andrew, as you said, they're just going to try something a little different than most MLS teams. They might sit a little deeper, but the primary formation will be the 3-5-2. And Kalen, I know you're pretty excited about Castillo and Hairston.
Yeah, well, to play the 3-5-2, it matters what pieces you have. And you've got 3 athletic center backs. You can add Axel Schulenberg to the picture here. He could potentially step in. But Castillo should be able to bomb forward. And Marlon Hairston, guy called into January camp with the men's national team. Guy will look to continue to emerge. And then this is the other guy I'm watching, Dominic Baji. Has faced some criticism for his missed chance in the Champions League, but this is a guy they can rely on, I think, throughout the season. Almost 10 goals last year, missed a penalty on the last day of the regular season, but I think he's a guy that you could see take a big step forward into potentially leading this line.
You know what I hear when you say he missed that penalty? That he missed a bonus. That double-digit bonus, dude. You know we love that. Kalen, I was a big fan of Jack Price in those 2 Champions League games, but listen, if we're going to talk Champions League, we've got to go to the goalkeeping position, Andrew, with Tim Howard.
Yep, Tim Howard did not play in that second leg, but he's going to be in the starting lineup. Has he lost a step, Matt?
He clearly has, and we've seen it over the last 18 months. That terrible goal he gave up to the Whitecaps that Jordi Reyna scored, and obviously the first leg.
Don't go where you're going.
Don't go where you're going. League, and then, against Costa Rica and against Trinidad and Tobago in World Cup qualifying. Right now, I think Zach McMath is a better goalkeeper.
But Zach McMath will not be the starter. Colorado Rapids spokespeople saying that, look, that was just an opportunity to get him some run. Ultimately, Howard is the face of this team, Kalen.
Yeah, face of the franchise, highest paid player. Going to be very hard to uproot him. Obviously, Zach McMath, a talented player, has proven it. He can be a starter in this league, but this team needs Tim Howard in goal. They need him playing his best. His level has dropped off maybe from 16 saves against Belgium. Matt will never forgive him for that, but he's still the man in charge here in Colorado.
I'll never forget him for that.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. We need that Tim Howard back.
They certainly do. Of course, if they're facing that many shots, that's a whole different issue entirely. Prediction time, 16, so good. Nearly the Supporters' Shield into the playoffs, made a big run there. 17, not so good. Doyle, this season will be closer to 16 or to 17?
Split the difference. They're not going to score a lot of goals, but they're not going to give up a lot of goals either, and they're going to be a tough out for everyone. I just don't think they have enough going forward to get into the playoffs.
I was so ready all preseason to say it would be closer to 17. Then they come out and they played well against Toronto, and it reminds me that I just know nothing, but I'm going to say closer to 17, but not quite as bad.
11-0-6 and 16 at home, only 7 goals conceded. Last year, 20 goals conceded, I believe, lost 5 games at home. So their home form is what's going to carry them through and get them back on track.
Yep, absolutely. Colorado Rapids with a big season ahead. First one for Anthony Hudson. Of course, the first year for Brad Friedel in New England as well. His first head coaching job in the professional ranks. Bobby, what's job 1?
Job 1, oh, I love that shirt. I need to bring those back. But job 1, Andrew, is just building a culture. When you take over a new team, but not only that, but when you start a career as a coach, you want to lay the emphasis on who you are and what kind of clubs you want to build. So job 1 is building a culture. They obviously want to win. They want to get results in 2018, but this is about laying a foundation for who the Revs are and who Brad Friedel is as a coach.
He has obviously got a lot of influences from his time in Europe, and now he's got some more weapons, let's call them. Let's check out the in and out for the New England Revolution this offseason. The in, Zahibo, Pania. The out, Angua, Kouassi, Kofi, and Kai Kamara, Kalen.
Yeah, Kai's the name that stands out in this group, as always here. Didn't really fit this system. Had so many crafty players, Facundes, Agudelo, Christian Nemeth, Kellen Rowe. Kai wants the ball in the box. He fits better in Vancouver. Now you'll have to see how this team reimagines itself. Needs to find really a way to just channel the ball into Agudelo. I think this is his big opportunity to really have this be his spot.
2 straight seasons, 7th in the East. They need to get over that line. How will Brad Friedel try to do it? Doyle, Bobby, walk us through it.
Doyle, the question with the Revs is the last time they made the deep playoff run, they had Jermaine Jones. And it feels like since then, they've just been missing the steel or the energy, whatever it is in there. And this year they went out and got Zahibo.
Yeah, you could say it. They've been soft, especially through midfield. And Zahibo is the guy who is supposed to fix that. And what we saw in preseason is that he is not soft. He might actually be a little bit reckless, which could be a problem. That's what they had last year. Too many red cards in central midfield. He's going to be a key. To me, the other key, say it with me all, it's been like 8 years that we're saying this, Juan Agudelo up top. I have been hoping we would see him get run as a true number 9. I thought in late 2016 he was great in that role. They moved him out of it in 2017. Looks like he's back up there.
It feels like if you could blend Zahibo and Agudelo, their intensity, you could have the perfect player. Guys, the one player I have an eye on, Kellen Rowe. I personally want to see Rowe as an 8. Friedel said early on in preseason he was going to play Rowe as an 8, but fans might have noticed there's a little thing going on in the Rev camp right now with Lee Nguyen.
Little thing going on. Lee did not show up to preseason. He said, trade me. I don't want to be here. He eventually arrived. But, Kaylin, this is a complicated one. What do you make of it?
Well, this is a worst-case scenario. This is not how you want to start off as a new manager coming into a club situation and having your best player sit out. As I mentioned, just too many similar pieces here. Fagundes didn't even make your 11, guys.
Right.
You know, he's got to be on the field, and you have, you have Kellen Rowe.
Namath, Pania. You could go through the laundry list.
But you've seen the Red Bulls move on from Dax, from Sasha Kleshton. You've seen Benny Feilhaber leave Sporting Kansas City. It's about getting value. You can't prove a point just by sitting your best player in the stands and making them watch. Make it work for you. Get out in the market. He has value. Give Kellen Rowe the keys to the castle. Let him run the attacking midfield spot and make it valuable.
No, and you keep using the word value, and it's true. Like, what is the value play here for the Revs? In one hand, you trade Lee Nguyen, you probably get $500,000 worth of allocation money, and you get equity with the guys in the locker room. You say, you know what, Lee was a great servant for this franchise for the past 6 years. Best 11 caliber player. He wants to move on. We're going to give him what he wants, and I think that would resonate. On the other hand, Brad Friedel's a young coach. The young coach wants to come in and show that he is the first, last, and only word that matters. And maybe to him, that's more valuable than getting $500,000 worth of allocation money and credit with the guys in the locker room.
You did a nice job of framing the logic, but Kellen, we've been in this situation, and there's a human factor to this. And there's 2 options, and I couldn't tell you which is the right one to do. Yeah, it's smart to build credibility, but it's also smart, I hate to say it, in a locker room, fear and respect go a long way. So I couldn't tell Friedel the right choice. All I know is this is why you pay a lot of money for managers. This is what a manager has to do. He has to have a feel for these human factors in a locker room, and he's certainly making a dangerous move here.
There's a push and pull here. Can they afford to keep one of their best players? Maybe their best player off the field. The Lee Nguyen situation has captured our attention. Still TBD on how that one will turn out. Same thing with the Revs season. They got to get over the hump. 7th, the last 2 seasons. Will they do it? Will they finally push their way to the playoffs, Doyle?
I don't think so. I just have too many questions about that back line, and honestly, I worry a little bit about the chemistry as well, given everything that's happened in preseason.
Gonna say out of the playoffs.
2 out of 3.
Too many similar pieces. Great attack, but too many similar pieces, and not enough balance in defense. I think they're on the outside again.
Same old story for the Revs, according to our panel here. The Montreal Impact, however, are opening up a new chapter in their history. Remy Gard taking over as head coach, bringing his European pedigree to this team. They want to go young. What's his job in year 1?
What he was known for in France was his ability to get the most out of young players individually, to take a guy who was maybe a B- talent and turn him into a B+ player. And that's what it's the only thing I'm really looking for from Montreal this year is what he can do with guys like Samuel Piatti and Raheem Edwards and Anthony Jackson-Hamel and Michael Petrasso and all the young academy kids they got on that back line as well. A draft pick they just signed, Ken Kralicki, who I like a lot. He has to make them better individually and build that core, just build out from there.
They made an A+ move already with Balu Tabla going to Barcelona.
Yeah.
I think this is a big move for the league. I mean, you go around and you say, we're transferring players now to clubs like that.
And he's getting minutes with Barcelona B already.
Training with the first team as well. That's got to be a huge confidence builder for the club, not only with resources coming back, but as far as inspiring young kids in Montreal to be able to feel like this is an academy I want to be a part of and can move me on to bigger and better.
And it's just part of a long-term vision. If you're a fan, if you're an analyst, really just what you want to see from a club is a plan, is a vision, and that's what this tableau sale shows. It means that the younger players in that academy will work a little bit harder, and they know that they've got a chance to get to Barcelona. And how powerful is that?
Yeah.
If you could go to work every day and say, hey, I could play with that Messi fellow in a couple years, that's a pretty powerful thing.
That's not bad. That is absolutely a good thing for those academy players. And there are a lot in this team. Roster moves for this year at the Montreal Impact. You've got a mix here. Petrasso, Tider, Vargas, Edwards. But the outs, club legend Patrice Bernier, Bobby. Bliram Jamili, though, that's probably the one that stands out.
Yeah, the Jamili, it just feels like he was a gem we didn't fully appreciate, Andrew. But of all the teams, it just feels like this out and in is such a representation of what the organization wants to do. They got rid of a couple older players, they got rid of a young talent, and it's mostly young names with a high potential. Petrasso is an exciting one, 22 years old, can play multiple positions. It's just a representation of what this club is going to do in future years.
They're going young. Remy Gard wants to get results, though. He says depth might be a little bit of an issue, but what's the 11 look like, Doyle and Kalen?
Thanks, Andrew. Always a bit interesting when you're coming with a new manager and a lot of different options. Experience in youth, how do you see this playing out on the field?
I think the youth is what's going to be sort of emphasized here, and you can see it in the lineup that we put out for him. Piatti's 22, Vargas is 20. Tider, who they got this offseason, who was awesome in preseason, is 25 years old. Like, that's a pretty young central midfield, and that's going to be the job, is to build that core out from there and sort of let it flow. Now, be aware as well, Diallo's already hurt. So they're going to have to figure out what to do in central defense as well. I mean, it's early, and there's already a little bit of a crisis back there.
Another big choice for him up top, Mancosu or Jackson Hamel, and it might hinge on who combines best with Piatti. Who gets the edge in that to you?
They've both done it well. Jackson Hamel was great at it last year, Mancosu the year before. I do question a little bit how long Ignacio Piatti is going to be there. Because if you look at, he's 33 years old, he's kind of on a different timeline than the rest of this team and what they're building.
Well, for a new manager, a nice piece to work with, Piatti building around him. Andrew, back to you.
Yeah, Piatti is the security blanket. When all else fails, just kick it out to the left wing, Bobby, and let this man work. Because when he's on the ball, he is terrifying.
Matt just made me a little sad. Piatti, don't get rid of Piatti, guys. He's so good. But you know what? You do have a point. Piatti's just one of these guys that's fun to watch. He just lives in an organization with his general presence, with his ability on the field, and he is getting a little older. With a younger team, I just hope that we get to see him in big games. We get to see him in prime time, which, as you said, might not actually be the right decision for Montreal this year.
Most leagues in the world, if you're into sort of a rebuilding phase, and you have a guy who's 33 years old who is still such an asset around the league, you would consider flipping him. Look at Arsenal just sold Alexis Sanchez. You know, Sanchez is a little bit younger, but it's the same principle. I think that if Montreal get off to a slow start, which I think they will, and Piatti is still great, which I think he will still be, there will be general managers all over the league picking up the phone and calling Remy Gard. And if I'm Remy Gard, Nelson Rodriguez calls and offers the David Accam money and a pick and a young player, I have to listen to that because Montreal are rebuilding. And Piatti's not going to be there when the rebuild is done.
Let's play along with this fantasy, Kalen. If they make a move like that, what's the message that they're sending to their fan base, to the rest of their squad? Would that be the right move to make, in your opinion?
I don't think so. I think when you see what Montreal is doing, they're actually moving some of their younger pieces, Balo Tabla abroad, to be able to invest in the academy. The sale that they would get from this isn't like an Alexis Sanchez where they could reinvest that money back into the academy. It comes in the form of TAM or GAM or some other roster mechanism that's not going to give them the same quality that you can find in a Piatti. It's important to have a player with experience, with quality, to be able to really give the ball to, obviously, in a tough spot in the game, but also to be able to grow from and teach the rest of the young players as they emerge.
All right, let's go to predictions. Playoffs in or out for Montreal. What is the best case scenario, worst case scenario?
Best case scenario is that all those young players live up to and exceed their potential. Piatti has another year or two left in those boots, and they fight for a playoff spot. Worst case is none of that happens, and they're bottom of the Eastern Conference.
And Edwards grows into the MVP you know he can be.
Oh, get that hype train rolling.
Yeah, right? I couldn't even say best case and worst case scenario because when you're in a transition phase, the measurements are changed. So you can't measure this team's 2018 success, guys, on do they make the playoffs, do they make a run. It's more about do they lay a foundation, do they find a couple young players that can contribute long term.
I see them doing that. They've moved on, obviously, from Simon. and my guy. Sorry.
Patrice Bernier.
Patrice. Sorry, Patrice. I love you, man. And brought in some young Canadian talent. Piatti, Edwards, Jackson Hamel. I'd like to see those guys take a step forward.
All right, those are 5 new managers in Major League Soccer. You can be a manager too, though. Have you guys made your fantasy teams yet? You resting on your laurels? Bobby says yes.
I have Russian bots doing it for me.
You look nervous? Okay. All right, go get that done. 2 seasons this year, $2,000 prize. Join the Extra Time League. And remember, go download the MLS app, iTunes, or Google Play. That's the way you keep up with the league from day to day. And we will be back here this weekend, MLS Matchday Central. Check us out. All the analysis, all the highlights from all this weekend's opening matches. And then, of course, we're back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, Facebook, YouTube. Like us, follow our page, and make sure you dress for MLS on Friday. We'll see you next time, everybody.